permanently in Ghana. I just didn't know what would bring me here, but I left at an age where I knew enough that this was home and that I would be coming back at some point.
That's nice to hear, and I think that's a lot of courage and patriotism.
Yes.
you have a dose of Kwame Nkrumah's blood in you.
That's such an honor and a compliment. I'll take it.
Okay, so yeah, this is what we do here on Xlive every Wednesday. We try to have sisters and brothers who have decided to come home and share their story with ourselves. I know it's not easy. We're just communicating on WhatsApp, the traffic, where have you been, and all of that.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And sometimes even locating a place is. But I think with that one, Ghana Post is going to make it easier.
Yes.
For us, have you downloaded your
I haven't downloaded Ghana Post.
You have to. You have to. Because, it really works just like that. You understand? So you have to get on it. So
yes. But I want to also thank you for having this platform for us to share our stories, you know. So because it's not every day that we get opportunities to come and share with everyone what we want to do or what we're doing. So thank you so much for having this one. And I have so many friends, so they've told me, let them know they want to come too.
Oh wow. We want to have all of them, because you know, one of the things is that the media in everywhere where the media is located is meant to project where it is. But unfortunately, most of the media in Africa and in Ghana, it does not project what we have. But you know, our names, as our name goes, Xlive Africa, we do everything an extra mile for Africa. So we decided that we need to tell the African story. So that's why we came up with them. Glory be to Dr. Kanida Groups. I don't know if you know her. Yeah, we're just having a conversation and we decided to have this segment. And she was the first person on the segment, and since then all the guests have been amazing. So
I believe you. I think from now on your guests will be chow.
That's it. That's
there's so many of us now.
That's it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you said, you moved from Ghana when you were 10.
Yes.
Oh, pretty young.
Yes.
And you went all over there, went to school there and everything. So when did the idea happen to you that no, I have to go back?
So I grew up in the Bronx, and the Bronx has a large majority of Ghanaians, a large population of Africans in general. So in some ways it was like you're partially living in Ghana when you live in the Bronx. There's an African market, you go to a Ghanaian church, you wear your cabas and slits. So in a sense, being home was always
So that's the landing in the US.
Oh, that's it. There was a New York Times article that was saying the Bronx has the biggest population of Ghanaians outside of Ghana itself. So it always felt very homely, and I knew it was important to come back because we ate the food, we never really separated from the culture. And then I went to a school in the Bronx where we really talked about black issues and black problems from a very, very young age.
What was the name of the school?
It's called Bronx Preparatory Charter School.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's a charter school, and what it was meant to do was take poor inner city kids, educate them and take them to some of the top institutions in the country.
Oh, okay.
And one of the things that our teachers did was to make sure that we had a great sense of history and self-worth, and that meant that we were all delving into what our own historical backgrounds were. So long story short, I did that, then I went to a university called Swarthmore College. Funny enough, the president of Ashesi right now came from my school.
Oh, wow.
So we have a strong legacy of people who always come back, who are looking to do social justice issues and contribute to their community. So in college, during my senior year, when everyone is getting ready to apply for jobs and things like that, I decided, I have free time. Let me come to Ghana. So I used my semester, my senior year's fall semester, I came to study at the University of Ghana.
Wow.
And that's when I knew I had to come back. So I had 5 months here with the school at UG, and UG is crazy. You have fun. So it's not like when you come to Ghana for the first time. I hadn't been to Ghana since I left.
So this is one of your guys.
Legon guys. So isn't it, sometimes when you go and you come back with your parents, you're very restricted. And you call her and you say, they try to monitor, they care for your safety. But if you come with a school, there's nothing you can do. Your parents don't don't even know where you're doing. I had a great time. We got to travel throughout all of the regions in Ghana. So I got to see the country for what it was. I was with people who were not Ghanaian, so you see how they marvel at things, and you're like, wow, so this is what we have, and we're not really seeing it in that same way. And we got to go to Benin and Togo, so all of those things were wonderful. So when I graduated from college, at some point I knew I had to come back, and eventually I had the opportunity to come here through work, and then I decided to stay.
Wow.
Wow. Yes.
That's so amazing. That's so amazing. And I was telling one of the guests that, you know, in the mindset of many Ghanaians, this is hell, and where you're coming from is heaven. So sometimes they ask you, why are you doing it? Did they ask you those things?
Yeah, so my family, you know, some of the outside people understand, but it's really the people closest to you who understand what it's like to. Both of my parents grew up in the village, and you know, America was their way to get out of that poverty and create something for themselves. So my family always asks us questions about, you know, what you're doing, why is this important?
Why are you going back?
Why are you sacrificing so much? But luckily, my parents are also, they're questioning, but they're also supportive. They know that it's not coming from anywhere, you know. You don't just risk everything, your comfort, dollars, all of that to come and live here. So they know that it's not a small thing. So I really appreciate them for that.
Okay. So how has the business environment been treating you? And how are you assimilating yourself to it?
So when I came, I was working with a number of startups, and I think Ghana's startup community is growing. And it's right in your backyard, actually, you know, so through Impact Hub and iSpace Garden. They're doing phenomenal work. So as soon as I came, they allowed me to use their spaces, to talk to people, and to really get integrated into the system. So I think depending on what industry you're in, it's easy to assimilate and get people who are supportive of what you're trying to do.
Okay, let's, you know, yesterday we were talking on the phone, and I was like, sometimes when I talk to people on this show, it looks like you guys have a lens that majority of us here don't have. What do you see, or what did you see that many of the youth here don't see? That is making them right now want to run away. What do you see?
I think it starts with education. In the US, they teach you about their history. And you realize that the things that they have now, the fast railways, the transportation systems, did not come out of nowhere. You know, it came out of, a lot of times, slave labor, people breaking their backs. It came out of industrialization, people getting killed in factories, child labor, so many complicated things. So when you learn the history as a young person in school, it changes your mind that the things you see in the country don't just happen. And I think that's something they do really well on, so that people know that as a citizen, you have to contribute to the progress of the nation. You know, when I was in Ghana, I don't think I had that kind of mindset. We weren't taught that in school, that people have to struggle to make the country what it is. So I think people from outside who've been educated elsewhere see that the development of their countries comes out of sweat and labor and a lot of.
And they have a role to play.
Yes.
Wow, this is profound. This is profound. So what do you think need to be changed in education? Because for me, if you are an ardent listener of my show from Monday to Friday, I always lambast our education system because it lacks a lot. It doesn't tell us the things we need to hear. It doesn't show us, because
for some time, and part of what we do in the US is you get the problem and you don't solve it for the students and tell them memorize the solution. You know, you give them the problem, you give them time to look at it and try to figure it out on their own. And then you as a teacher come back and say, okay, this is where you went wrong, this is how you started. And then you teach them the thought process, not the solution. How to arrive at the answer for something else that they will get later on. So they won't see the same problem for them to write the same answer again. You know, they have to they have to use that thought process that you taught them to then be able to solve whatever problem it is that they're seeing on their paper. So I think taking away from question and answer and going into how do you think, you know, as a person, what is your thought process? How does it relate to the problem that you're seeing? Will be very influential in what we want to do.
Wow. But currently you are into entrepreneurship, right?
Yes, please.
Do you have in mind one day venturing into education?
Yes.
Just like Ashesi
Yes.
man has
Yes.
What level of education do you want to go into?
I think that middle, I taught high school, so for us, high school is between 13 to 18. To me, that age is so pivotal. Most young teachers run away from that because you're so close to their age and they don't want to listen, they're growing up. But for me, that age group is a critical turning point. If you get the right person, the right adult to motivate and encourage you, sets the path for everything after that. You know, so that's the age group that I want to go into, that adolescent area.
Yeah, and I think that's where things get messed up in most part of Africa. So in 2014, I started a project called the Search for My Authentic Self. You know, if you're going to senior high school and you don't know yourself, you are likely to mess up yourself. Right. And what happens most is that we choose courses at the senior high school most of the time that do not relate to our talents, our passions, and all of that. And we end up doing any course and come out as any human being instead of going there to polish what is in you. Yeah.
You see, but that's the thing with us following the British system, you know. In the US, we don't do that. When you're in high school, you don't have to choose what you're going to study. Even in college, for the first 2 years, you're too young. How will you know at 18 what you're going to do for the rest of your life? You know, you haven't really gotten a good sense of who you are and what your contributions and gifts are and can be. So I think having senior high school students choose, I'm going to go this track, I'm going to this, kind of puts them in a box that keeps them from further exploring what it is that they want to do down the line.
Wow. The conversation is getting interesting. It's getting interesting right now. Let's go for a quick break and we'll be back to talk about more. The US as a black woman from Africa. How is it different from living in the US as a black woman who is an African American? Is there any difference?
That's a deep question.
because I've monitored and I've also been told that the relationship between the African American in the US and the Ghanaian, or like the Africans from the continent, is quite different. You don't seem to click. What do you think is so?
Yeah. So I think that's a very deep question that, you know, a lot of us now are wrestling with. If you grew up in the US from a young age as an African, you know, and you go to school, most of your friends are going to be Black American. Because when I went to the US, most of the larger population was African Americans and Latinos. So most of my closest friends from a young age were not Ghanaians. So in that sense, I grew up to really understand.
You got into it.
I assimilated into Black culture very early. I was my cousin and I were the only Africans in our school for a long time before another one of our cousins joined. So in that sense, we weren't in school, and we spent all day in school from 8 to 5, sometimes 6. So we weren't in a position to be exclusionary. Yeah, exactly. But I think there's some very deep issues. You know, my family, my sisters and I talk about it a lot of times where Africans see African Americans as a kata. You know, even where does that name come from? Every day you hear different places. Oh, it comes from this. You know. And then they also see that sometimes they see that Africans are not appreciative of what they struggle to get for Black people as a whole in the country. You know, if it wasn't for all of the things Black people did in America, we would not have the advantages. Now, today, an African can go to America and within 5 years, they'll get to this degree and this degree and this degree. But if it wasn't for Black Americans who struggle to integrate the schools, if you think about Jim Crow laws, we wouldn't be able to get those advanced degrees we're getting now. You know, so I think it's important that we keep all of those things in perspective.
I think you have said something so profound, because many of us don't see that way, and I think sometimes they have a case for feeling bitter if you come from Ghana or any part of Africa and just come and you also follow what the white America is saying, that they are lazy, they are this and all of that. You've been there. What is the situation? What is or who is trying to divide the African on the continent and the African who was falling? What do you think is the issue? since you had the opportunity to grow up with them in school?
Yes. I think the issue comes from the system. You know, the system does it so that the system is so competitive. You know, how many black people can get into, say, Harvard or a top university? You know, so it just seems, and then when the African gets it, it seems like, oh, because they got it,
they are better than.
Yes, and the African American couldn't get it. So I think the system makes us fight against ourselves. And then within the communities, there are certain things that happen that, you know, culturally Africans don't find acceptable. Like, culturally Africans will not be outside drinking or smoking. So it kind of causes a rift between the culture of what, you know, sometimes in some of the neighborhoods you see in Black America and what you see with the Africans. But I'm like a big Pan-Africanist. I really believe that.
Shout out to that.
Yes, I wholly believe that we have to come together.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, and so many of my Black American friends wish that they would be able to find their home. Like, they always told me, I wish I knew where I was coming from. And
yeah, you know.
We take it for granted.
I was chatting with Yaya on this same segment, and she said her mom always said that I want to die on the motherland. And they got here, they got to Ghana, they moved to Ghana permanently, and in 5 months time she died. And she was like,
yes,
they were happy.
Yes.
You understand? So, just like we here don't see the good here, but you guys come and you see all of the good. You see here to be heaven, and we see it to be hell. I'm like, we don't have an idea how it feels to them for them to come back, and sometimes they come, some want to get their citizenship and the hassle they go through. So Dr. Kaniga, that group was like, look, when I was taken out, my ancestors were taken away. Nobody asked them their visa, where they would stay. And now I'm coming back to the land out where I was stolen, and I'm asking visa and all of those things.
Very crazy.
You know, yeah.
Identity is a big issue for lots of people. You know?
Exactly.
Sometimes for us Africans, because every day we're hustling, thinking of your daily bread. Those problems don't. But for some people, it's very important that they feel connected to a place and a community.
So, have you been to the dungeons, the Xlive dungeons before?
Yes, I have.
When was that?
So I went first with my school. So that was 2011, and then since I've been back 2016, I went twice.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And how is it feeling when you get there?
The second time I went, I think when you go older, you know, when I was in university, you're going the history, but when you go older and you understand kind of the implications long term of what it did, it's very difficult. And one of the things, I studied African history and economics in college, and one of the things we talked about is the fact that, you know, African Americans always talk about slavery. It's very, very important in their history, but Africans don't really give themselves the space to think about what that meant for their families.
Over here, our educational system makes us celebrate slavery. In BEC, they will ask you a question like, define the term colonization, and state 4 positive benefits of colonization. Say A.
That's too much.
This is mental insult. This is poisoning. But it took me a whole lot of years to realize that this is insult to my mind, to my academic upbringing.
Sure.
Something that the UN has declared as the worst thing that has happened to mankind. You have a country where it happened. Asking its citizens to state 4 positive benefits of it. You understand?
Yes.
So all of these things form part of the divide between us. You understand? But I thank God that now we are getting to understand ourselves. We are getting to understand ourselves, and we come back. Now let's come to what you do. What you're doing here in Ghana.
Yes. So for the most part, I write. I'm very passionate about that as a way to restore our history and get the history out to people. Because for most of history, Africans haven't told their story. We all know that, and now we have platforms that allow us to continue to get the stories out. So on the day-to-day, I write for different publications, and I also write for a fellowship. It's called Amplify Africa, and if anyone is interested, it's open to different Africans in about 5 countries. and they pay you so that you continue to develop your craft. So if it's writing, videography, cinematography.
Okay, so maybe I'm going to sign up.
You should. You should. The next cohort starts soon, so it'll be great for you to. It's wonderful. You get paid to do what you're doing. So apart from the writing, I believe very much in social entrepreneurship. So a group of Ghanaians and I got together. We're a team of 5. And what we're doing is we're trying to bring more jobs into the continent for young people. As you said, graduate unemployment is a huge problem. So we have a job board. It's like government, but we're thinking of more creative ways to create opportunities for young Africans. We're live now. We started last year. We got some awards and things, but then we had to step back and reevaluate if we were meeting the mission. It's like you give an employer the person, but then the person is not up to par. So how do we make sure that even though we're creating opportunities, an employer will come again and say, well, give me another graduate. So we had to step back, but we're ready for 2018 to go forward and see what we can do in that area.
That's amazing. Then let me announce that if you're listening and you have any comment, contribution to do on this show, the number is 024778596. 024778596. If you are outside of Ghana listening, just add the country code, which is +233, and add the number 24778596. At the right time, I will allow you, if you want to call, you can also call and make your contribution. This is Xlive, Ghana's biggest online radio station. So let's talk about maneuvering yourself, navigating yourself in all of the things you're doing. What are some of the challenges, and what are some of the things that you say maybe you never thought you would get them easy as you've done?
Well, every day I talk about the same challenge, and people are like, why? I always say that data is a huge. It's so expensive in this country. You know, even in the US where you have to pay for data, there are so many places you can get free internet access. And I think data, and especially in terms of the opportunities that the online world offers, you know, if we can make it more accessible and more inexpensive for young people, we won't be able to imagine the creative things and
you can do.
It's crazy. So I think that's a huge impediment for the average family compared to what they make, you know. Maybe for someone coming from outside, it's cheap.
Even they come and they also complain.
Yeah, it's
and on top of it, sometimes it's not reliable.
Oh yes.
I'm using busy internet and I move from this place to a next place, and it doesn't get.
Yes.
And I'm like, so I think that's true observation. What else do you think is an impediment?
I think sometimes, you know, the market is not ready for some of the innovations we want to bring.
For example?
Do I have a good example? Like, let's say you have an internet-based company, you know, and the market, let's say e-commerce, you want to sell, now I have mine. Okay, you have an e-commerce company. I have a friend who has an e-commerce company, so Difa.com, and you want to sell things that we make in Ghana. You get it from different artisans, you want to take it out. It's hard for Ghanaians to appreciate that kind of platform because the market is not ready for e-commerce. According to reports, only about 20% of the population have steady internet, so the possibility of you growing a huge market there is very small. And then even from the people outside, shipping. It's, you know, when you think about China and manufacturing, if you go to the US, most of the clothes we wear were made in China or made in India. But to get made in Africa clothes is so hard because for whatever reason, shipping outside of the continent is very, very expensive for the average entrepreneur. So I think those bigger things that we can look at, if the government can do anything to facilitate the transport, imports, and things like that, it will make it, well, mostly exports, will make it more viable for young people to get things outside.
Now I think this is about time this young up-and-coming entrepreneurs, especially the Pan-African ones like yourselves, need to put together some message to the government to do something about it, because that's true. you go into a business and people see your product, and these days African wear is so hot around the world.
Yes.
And they want to get it, but means to transport has become a huge problem. So there is a segment on our show that we call the shocks. What was your shock when you got back after? When you left, you were 10.
Yes.
At what age did you come back?
So I was 21. The first time I lived.
Okay, so back you came back when after 11 years. What were some of your shocks? Being good or bad?
Well, the first one is if you go to the restroom, you need to bring your own tea roll.
It's not everywhere.
It's not everywhere you get that. So that's a thing. I think the other thing is some of the food you buy, you're so excited to eat, and some of the food you buy outside will make you sick, and small things like that. Daily things that make life a bit more difficult for you as an outsider, even if you're Ghanaian, when you come, initially your stomach doesn't agree with the...
Yeah, but I think that is normal.
Anywhere.
Yeah, that's normal.
Sure.
Yeah, because of the food, the water and everything has changed. So what are some of the good shocks?
I think people here are very nice. Like, recently I started driving, so maybe 3 months ago I started driving. And if you don't have a car here, your movements are some way very limited. When I started driving, everyone was like, "Hey, Chocho, for idea, but I haven't experienced that. They've been. I think if you understand that everyone is trying to move in their speed, and you also keep your eyes open, you'll be fine. So I think Ghanaians in general have been very, very welcoming, very supportive. As a people, and everyone who comes here, my friends who visit me, they're like, "Oh my God, Ghanaians are so nice," and they don't see that even in other African countries. So I think we should pride ourselves on that.
Okay, so now you are here, you're doing a lot of things, and this perception of Africans living on trees and all of that. I know you are doing a lot online.
Yes.
So when your friends see some of the things, the places you go, what is the feedback? What is the response like?
Oh, I'm coming. I'm coming. I've gotten so many friends here so far. So far, last year I had over 10 friends
coming to visit.
Yes, and this year I left for some time to be in the States for about 3 months. But I've had a few friends visit since, and I'm going to have even more in 2018. So I think when they see us living very comfortable, rich lives, and not rich in terms of money, but rich in terms of experience. They want to come and see that for themselves. So I'm very excited. My best friend, who's Nigerian, she's coming.
That's cool.
So I'm very excited about all of those things.
So what do you think the average Ghanaian youth must do to sell Africa?
I think so. They have to realize that it's part of their responsibility. They don't see it as that. When I talk to some of my cousins, it's like, oh, situation, they feel very slighted by the system. It's a lot for them. So I think they have to see that even outside of those things, it's still their responsibility to help promote the continent and the country forward. So once we get the mindset in the right place, I think they can do it in their own ways. The young people are always on Snap. That's maybe something I'm shocked about. How much young Africans love Snap and Instagram and things like that.
Not using it for any productive means.
Yes. So how can you even channel that? A lot of them have a lot to say. Can you create your own YouTube channel? People are making so much money outside from YouTube channels. Can you create your own channels where you're sharing whatever your views are or your lifestyle? Lifestyle is so big now. Lifestyle content. So I think just having them realize that there's an opportunity there, not only to share the story, but in sharing the story, you also make money. If they realize that there's a money value and it's also something that's important for the country, I think they'll come around to it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, I think I have a message here for you.
Okay.
this one, it says, my name is Samantha. Listen from South Africa. It says, what would you say is a strategy used by the West to divide we Africans? I think it's something that we've spoken about.
To add on, I'll just say is the strategy is not having us tell our own stories. They tell us what we should believe ourselves about ourselves and about each other. So if everywhere young Africans are telling their own stories about who they are and their beliefs, then no one can really come and divide us. It's about us controlling that narrative about who we are.
As you said, a lot of your friends are visiting and all of that. Where do you envisage this dream of African unification? Do you see it coming?
Yes. Yes,
what are the signs?
I think you have to be truly optimistic about this, or else you won't be able to go far. The signs for me are how big our tourism industry is growing now. There are so many people coming in. The signs for me are the number of young people who are coming back. Just this summer, for us it's summer, but just this December alone, the amount of young Ghanaians who are coming back for holidays, and most of the time if they have a good time, they want to come and stay longer, and that would, channel all of those things and bring them back long term. So I see so many positive signs. Also online, the kind of conversations we're having about who we
I think
are.
online the Africans are already united.
Yes.
I'm in so many WhatsApp groups having all Africans on. So online, but I think physically.
Yes.
And I think our government too needs to get ready for that. Last week something happened, and in Ghana it wasn't a big issue, but Ghanaians outside of Africa or Ghana were so angry. There was this Made in Ghana festival on the Oxford Street. Were you there?
No, I wasn't able to make it.
And there was this white girl who was given the podium to come and showcase why we should wear African print and all of that. And Ghanaians outside of Africa, especially in the US, were so angry. Do you think their anger is justified?
I see where they're coming from.
But where are they coming from?
They're coming from a place where in the US it's hard to get African to take a podium to come and say, oh, this is the US. Donald Trump will even sack yourself. So I think that idea that we don't have that same opportunity or platforms to talk about our issues elsewhere, but other people.
But this is a different person telling Africans why we should wear African print.
And I also think historically, we've had white people tell us who we are, and like I keep saying, so Africans are at the point, especially outside, where they want to be the ones who are leading that forefront. We don't need some white savior to come and tell us, oh, this is why we should value our own things and our own.
Because today is Tuesday, and you're wearing your African cloth.
My Bronya dress.
Yeah, your Bronya dress. And myself, I think they are right, because there's a big opportunity. So are you telling us that we didn't have any African girl to do that? And very soon, it's going to be in history that even they didn't want to wear their own clothes. They have to take this young girl.
Sure. But the thing is, in Ghana, usually it takes someone outside. Outside, we don't need a white person to come and tell us to wear this and that. But sometimes in Ghana, it takes an outsider for us to listen. Because in a lot of Ghanaian commercials, for a drink or something, now you see the white girl dancing like, it's like that's what makes it credible. Like, hey, it's like Ghanaians here feel like they need that validation. So I think on the continent we need to change our mindset. That just because a white person accepts it, it's not what's gonna make it.
I want us to dwell on this a bit. But don't you think all of this, when a white man does it, then we accept it because of the image created by Christian world about Jesus and all of that.
Right.
Anyway,
I hear you.
So another segment that we have is we ask our guests, are you religious?
Hey, it's getting personal.
Yeah, we have to get personal.
I very much believe in God. I very much believe in God. But I don't go to church every week. I've had very interesting experiences in the church. But I pray a lot and I make sure that I keep spirituality the center of everything that I do. That I do everything out of love. If you go on my WhatsApp, I use WhatsApp more than anybody else. My status every day I'm preaching blessings, peace, you know, because I think the biggest manifestation of what we see in religion is that you love people regardless of whatever they've done or what they do to you. And that you contribute. At the end of the day, we're all going to, die. So the biggest contribution we can make is between each other. We care for each other and love each other. But I don't go.
But so now, looking at this issue, where we Africans, Ghanaians are looking for the white man to put a stamp on it before we also pull our weight behind it. What would you say is the role religion is playing in this? And many people are saying that Africa needs to limit the way we cling on to religion.
Yeah. It's very interesting because I had a friend come here from Atlanta like last month and he was saying he's never seen so many white Jesuses in his life. Like the image of white Jesus is everywhere in Ghana, and religion is very much public. Whereas in the US, religion is very private. You go to church, you come home, you do your thing. But here you're on the church and someone will come and preach. And if you make your face some way, he'll say, yeah. So I think for lots of people, we don't see that there's another way, that Ghana is very religious. Even when I went to Nigeria, they've mixed religion with a lot of traditional things, but Ghana is purely
religion, and it looks foreign.
Yes. It doesn't look very native.
Indigenous.
So I think part of it is we don't see that religion is controlling other affairs outside of religion. In Ghana, it has a huge influence on everything else. And that there's nothing wrong with that, but most people don't understand that that's why they're doing this. Like you're talking about the Made in Ghana thing. A lot of people don't realize that we need white validation because historically we've been taught that the white savior in Christianity validates our lives and what we do. A lot of people can't make that connection. There's nothing wrong with that, but once we make that connection, then you can decide for yourself: is this something I want to follow? Is this not something I want to? Is this something I want to divide? Just because I go to church, believe in Jesus and God doesn't mean I need a white person to tell me that this is right or wrong. So I think it's about having the understanding that these things are playing a role outside of
our lives. Now let's come to the big and dicey issue of racism.
Yes.
You lived in the US for long, and did you ever encounter one?
Well, I don't think for me, because I studied these things in school, I know that racism is a system. When black people are fighting against racism, it's not like a white person in America will walk up to you and spit in your face. That's very rare. But it's the system that allows these things to happen. And an example of racism is Trayvon Martin's case. George Zimmerman will come and shoot Trayvon Martin. We don't say that shootings happen in America between whites and whites, black and black, whites and black. But the system allows George Zimmerman to get away. That's the problem. But if a black person shot another black person, the black person will be put away. Or if a black person shot another white person, usually the black person will be put to jail. Right. So it's the system that black people, if you really understand, I think in Africa we have a hard time understanding that racism is not,
prevalent.
Yeah, it's not like someone will come and slap you like, or you'll be walking and it happens. Those things happen. But the real problem is the system.
It has been institutionalized in the US.
Perfect word, right? Or, instead of that, a black person who grows up in the Bronx, for the most part, will not get a chance to go to a top institution because their teachers will usually be coming in and out. Or
how? Like,
it's like if you go to a poor school in the Bronx, usually there are lots of kids. It's just like you go to a poor school in Africa. There are lots of kids in one classroom. Your teacher won't stay there the whole year. Maybe they'll be, because they're not coming to a good neighborhood. You know, they're not coming to a place where they're being paid a lot. So most of the time, the teachers will switch or will leave the school, you know, before you even finish the term. In my former school, teachers will just quit or be fired in the middle of the year. You know, those things affect student learning. So at the end of like high school, if they're not able to go to a top institution, you say, oh, they didn't try hard or their marks weren't there. But what you didn't see was that because they were poor and black, they didn't get X, Y, and Z. The teacher didn't come. They didn't get to go to this trip. They didn't get this exposure. Once you go to some posh school in Connecticut, the teacher, they have one teacher who's like probably 70-something. She's been there the whole time. She studied the material. She knows how to get them to really engage. And they take them to trips, they get exposure, they know that there's a world of opportunities, they know that the environment is not where they have to be. You know, so I think when we look at systems, it's not what is right in front of you. The systems that keep black people from being able to take